Hello and welcome to another day in paradise, and welcome to another edition of the Unapologetic Negropian. Today we are going to talk about African Americans and why their influence and their input into the continent is absolutely crucial to the success of any movement of people, to the success of the entire continent as a whole. But first I'm going to ask you to please like, subscribe, share and click the bell notification. Over the last couple of weeks I've been making a lot of videos about what's been going on in the Gambia, and they have mainly been focused on individuals whose ethnicity have been African American. Matter of fact, I think all of them were, despite one or two. The events in the Gambia have largely overshadowed the impact African Americans have had in the Gambia and their success in the Gambia. Because of this, it's kind of spread, you know. I suppose it was over most of the continent already. A lot of continental Africans had negative feelings towards African Americans anyway, but I suppose this has just galvanized what many Africans originally thought about African Americans in the first place. The events in the Gambia have. So anyway, despite all this, these incidents, these happenings that have been happening in the Gambia and throughout the continent, it's just a tiny percentage of what's been going on, and people have been looking at these problems like this instead of opening their eyes to everything else that has been happening on the continent and the achievements that African Americans have had upon returning to the continent. So I wanted to make a quick video just to let you know the reasons why African Americans have and will continue to have respect on the continent and throughout the wider diaspora. Now, African Americans as an ethnicity are by far the most powerful African ethnicity on this planet, okay? But what is arguable is that they are also the most influential ethnicity ever. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, well, what about the Europeans? What about what they have done? What about the systems that they've brought to us? What about you know, the Middle Easterners, mathematics? You have to remember that all these systems that have been labeled with areas and with people, it's not like these people just had divine inspiration and just came up with these things, okay? People, thousands of years ago, they used to trade with knowledge, okay? Mansa Musa, the reason and the way he was able to have this technological edge over all his other rivals in Africa was by using his resources, mainly gold, traveling throughout the world and trading that gold for knowledge. So this is a normal thing. So the world that we see around us today, right? The world that you see around us today has been mainly influenced by the original people, us. You probably thought that rockets were invented by people here in the West, but they weren't. They never had any divine inspiration when it came to the inventions that they made. They simply copied either from nature or they copied from us. It didn't just stop, okay? Our engineering and science ingenuity carried on regardless. We still had that in our DNA, and thus you will normally see things, inventions that have been branded by companies, huge monolithic companies like Apple and Samsung. But where did telephones come from? Who invented the telephone? Let me tell you something. It wasn't someone that looked like someone from the West. It was somebody that looked like me. It is highly likely that if African Americans didn't exist, the telephone wouldn't exist. It is likely that, well, it wouldn't exist in the way that we know it today, would it? It is likely that, you know, the street lamps that light our streets, that we would still be in the dark if it wasn't for the ingenuity of another African American. I'm not saying that Africa isn't filled with these people with this type of prowess, okay, already. People with the mind and the skill to do so, to create, to build already. They're already there. But for some reason, African Americans have concentrated this. They're like, you know, super Africans. That is how you could describe them, because they have everything that makes Africans Africans. Why do we need African Americans? Okay, that was the question at the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to answer this question anyway. And I'm going to say this now, right? A lot of people who are going to watch this video are not going to like what I'm going to have to say. I am going to come out with some truths, some hard-hitting truths, which many people are going to deny, okay? One of those things is that we are at war, okay? We are currently at war, and we are at war with a highly efficient, highly organized enemy. If we are serious about winning this war, we are going to need our best soldiers. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, we're African. Yes, we all have this warrior spirit inside us. We have this propensity to resist, to fight. But not all soldiers are the same. Not all soldiers are built the same, okay? So you've got to realize where the history of African Americans themselves, okay? Because it's different than the rest of the diaspora. It really is. It's significantly different. They come from a different place, and their history is, I think, is a lot more darker where they have come from. They've come from a place where they have been at war, even up until now for the last 600 years. They have had everything thrown at them, from chemical warfare to biological warfare to, to being violence. They've had everything thrown at them. Everything. And amongst all that violence, all that debauchery, the organized onslaught, they have still managed to create and to build and to thrive in an environment filled with toxic people. Over the centuries, their DNA has become battle hardened, okay? it has grown to become something where if you want a resistance fighter, you forget watching Terminator and seeing all these grubby sort of dudes, European dudes with guns. That's not a resistance. You want a real resistance fighter. A real resistance fighter is going to be an African American. So the Americans, they have the Marines, okay? They're the British Army. We have the SAS, okay? In Lebanon, they have Hezbollah, okay? Every army on this planet will have their section, their spearhead, okay? The soldiers that they used to go in with, because these are the soldiers that will inflict maximum damage and lose as little people as possible, okay? These are the specialists, the ones that know war, the ones that know fighting, the ones that just have it in their DNA, inside their blood. Because generation after generations of their people have been born into this war, okay? Who do you think those people are in our war for freedom in Africa? Answer that question for yourself. For a moment, I want you to take time out. I want you to forget about the people that I've been ranting on about over the last 2 weeks. I want you to forget about them. I want you to forget about where they come from, okay? And I need you to listen, right? These people are not they do not personify what an African American is. Not even close. There are a group, I know, I've seen them with my own 2 eyes, a group of African Americans who are in Africa now. One of them's in Ghana, and they started up a farm. What are those yams called? Cassava, okay. A couple of them have set up these cassava farms, you know, and they're living their best lives. You haven't heard about them because they don't do this shit. They don't want your money. These are the real African Americans who I'm talking about, okay? The ones who are just in love with Africa, in love with their people. They call them their people because they see them as their people, okay? And they are loyal, trustworthy. They keep their word. These are the people who I should be promoting. I should be banging on the internet. And I think I will.